So Ormonde Jayne is a brand that I do happen to be a pretty big fan of. I've been wearing a lot of their fragrances. Over the summer, I wore a lot of Gatsby 22. Here we have a fragrance called Arabesque. This is a brand new release. I'm very excited to give you my thoughts on this seasonally appropriate release. I think it's fantastic for the fall and winter, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's episode and I give you my thoughts on the brand new fragrance by Ormonde Jayne, this one is called Arabesque. I'm going to tell you all about the smell, the notes, the performance, the evolution on my skin, comparisons to other popular fragrances, if there are any, if any exist. But I do want to start the video off first by saying that if you're a fan of this type of content, fragrance reviews, top 10s, giveaways, and more, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that neighboring bell icon, and also please give this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. It would really mean a lot to me. So one thing I said before is that this is a seasonally timed release. I think it's great for the fall and winter. Of course, we are in the middle of fall. Well, not the entire middle of fall, but the kind of beginning of fall, but it's still kind of cold here in the tri-state area. And of course, this one has blackcurrant, Italian bergamot, black pepper, and saffron. In the heart, you have jasmine and rose, and you have musk, moss, patchouli, and oud in the dry down. So this gives me the impression that it's going to be a floral, rosy, spicy, saffron, oud, and earthy type of a fragrance just based off of the note breakdown alone. And I do like that they have these little cards here. It actually comes on the inside of the box, and the box or has a sleeve on it, and the presentation is just really nice. It does look pretty expensive. And so this fragrance with a name like Arabesque, I'm very excited to give you my thoughts on the smell. Let's go ahead and start things off with a quick look at the presentation first. So the first thing that you're going to notice about this perfume is that overwhelming dose of saffron in the opening. And I don't say overwhelming in the sense that it's going to overtake your senses and it's going to be so heavy hitting, so on and so forth. I don't mean that. I think it's quite pleasant, to be honest with you, but it is spicy. You're in for a really spicy treat when you wear Arabesque. So the saffron is up front and center. You're going to get that heavy dose of spice, and you're reminded of the spice route where you find these, traveling merchants and they're trying to sell their wares. And you do have this huge dose of saffron. And what I like about that spicy facet in the opening is that it doesn't give off a leathery vibe. And I've mentioned on my channel that saffron is used in the synthesis of a lot of leather accords, and I'm not getting anything leathery about this one. Even in terms of the dry down, I know it mentions that there's moss and there's patchouli and there's whatever else. I'm not getting an overwhelmingly green character from this fragrance either. I am getting the oud, however. So this initially came across as an oud rose combination, and there are so many of those types of fragrances on the market. So now the consideration to be made is, how is this one going to be different from your typical oud rose fragrance? Initially, you smell it and you're thinking to yourself, is this something that Montal would put out? Initially, I was reminded of fragrances like Redolessence by Sospiro, or which is now a Xerjoff fragrance. And I thought to myself, this is a really nice and spicy oud rose fragrance, but I think where the difference lies between this one and other fragrances within this same genre is you do have that nice touch of black pepper in the opening. You also have a bit of jasmine in the heart. So the jasmine cleans things up a little bit, so you're not going to get this soliflor. Right? So you're not only going to get rose, but you are going to get this really nice pairing, this duality between jasmine and rose. And the black pepper adds this unique kick of spice to complement the saffron. And I think that also takes away from this not really smelling like a leather-based fragrance, if that makes sense. So it opens up with that spicy duality. I don't get a lot of blackcurrant, and the reason I say that is because blackcurrant comes across smelling rather musky in fragrances, and I'm not getting that here. But you do have this nice balance of clean florals and sensual florals in the heart. And the dry down, like I said, not very green, but you do get the agarwood. So I think initially you're going to be put in the mindset of, oh, is this going to be another oud rose fragrance? It is, but it does things differently. And I think the jasmine, the black pepper have a lot to contribute to that. So perhaps you do get more of the patchouli in the dry down, and almost, if you can imagine, More Than Words by Xerjoff, but without the sweetness. Or if you can imagine Armani's Rose d'Arabie without that sweetness as well, that chocolatey patchouli, something a bit more dry, something a bit more earthy. That's what I'm getting with this one, but it does smell opulent. It smells very exotic. It smells rich. The spice is pretty strong, so you're gonna have to sample this one before you buy it. If there's a chance of you finding this in a store somewhere, I would make a very strong recommendation to try it for yourself. Unless you already know you're a fan of pepper, you're a fan of saffron, you're looking for something with that spicy kick, this is going to be love at first sniff for a lot of people. I am sure of that. The agarwood is very high quality. The rose is very high quality. The saffron is very high quality, and I really appreciate that. I've certainly tried a lot of fragrances that purport to have rose in it, and it just doesn't smell like rose, or it does, but it smells very synthetic. So one thing that I can say about Ormonde Jayne is that they are consistently high quality. And I can say that about all of the Ormonde Jayne fragrances that I own, including Sakura, including Gatsby 22, and there are just too many to list, but Arabesque, amazing fragrance, very exotic, very rich and expensive smelling, and one that I'm going to be wearing a lot in the fall and winter. Let's finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, the biggest challenge that lies within this composition is how do you take that oud rose combination but do things differently? And I think this does manage to do that with the green elements, which are quite mild, but also with the black pepper and the jasmine. In terms of the longevity on this one, 10 plus hours. This is a super long lasting fragrance, one of the longest lasting fragrances that I've tried from Ormonde Jayne, certainly longer lasting than Gatsby 22 and Sakura, which are the two other Ormonde Jayne fragrances that I mentioned earlier on in the review that I happen to really enjoy. So 10 hours longevity. Projection was a good hour and a half beyond an arm's length. It became an elbow's length scent right around hour 7, 7.5, a skin scent right around hour 10. Versatility on this one, perfectly unisex, great for somebody a little bit older, a little bit more experienced in dealing with niche fragrances, great for the colder weather, great for a formal scenario. And in terms of the presentation, there's a slightly different look on the bottles here, but I personally enjoy it. And I do think that the packaging is really luxurious and it's timeless, it's chic, it's elegant, it's classy. My final verdict on this fragrance is, if you're looking for a spicy oud rose combination with an additional clean floral personality in the heart and an accented spicy opening, try Arabesque by Ormonde Jayne. I think it's wonderful, but sample. I never recommend blind buys on this channel, but just keep in mind that this is going to be on the spicy side of things. But I personally love that. There's another saffron fragrance called Alpha by Mendy Torosa. It's one of my favorites. It has been one of my favorites for a very long time. There's another fragrance by Matière Première. It's also a very heavy saffron fragrance, and I love that one too. So it's a matter of personal taste. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you took something of value from today's review. The brand new Arabesque by Ormonde Jayne, a house based out of London. Do you have any experience with this brand? If you do, drop your comments down below. I always love the interaction. And if you took anything of value from today's episode, please do consider showing your support by subscribing to the channel, hit the bell, and of course, give this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. Thanks again for watching. Love you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow with a new episode. Bye.